if my internet is working. All right. Hi, everybody. I know that people are going to be joining in slowly here. We just pushed the button to go live. So, of course, I'm Carly McMillen of PPC Farm, but today I have Daniel with me of Fluvi. So I'm really excited to talk to Daniel today to really get deep into inventory management, how that interacts with advertising, how to forecast, what to do if you're going to run out of stock, what to do if you already ran out of stock, best practices, and all that good stuff. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. So get your questions ready. You can start putting them in the comments. There is like a little bit of a delay with StreamYard, I've noticed. So start putting those comments in so we can make sure we get to everybody's questions. But Daniel, I'm going to throw it over to you and let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, about your journey on Amazon, because I think it's super fun and interesting story. And then, of course, tell us about Fluvi.
Thank you so much, Carly. Great to be here with your audience, and I hope I'll be able to share some words of wisdom. I've been an Amazon seller myself, started out in 2014, 2015. Had a couple of product launches, didn't really stick. Eventually, I found my niche, which was selling batteries for smartphones. I had a background in that. I had a business in Sweden repairing cell phones prior to actually starting selling these do-it-yourself kits on Amazon. So I started with that in 2015, had a real roller coaster ride. Some years were absolutely fantastic, some years were horrible. Amazon shut me down 3 times during my 7 or 8 years selling on that platform. First time was due to a copyright infringement charge, which was incorrect. It took me 6 months to appeal that. Eventually got back on track. A couple of months later, they shut me down again, and not just me, but most of the products in my category. This time they had introduced a new safety requirement, which nobody had. It took me 9 months to redesign and rework the products to fit the safety requirement. It was a blast. And then eventually I got back and I thought things would be good now. But then my competitors found out that they can get me shut down pretty quickly by placing negative reviews on my listing. And not just any review, but they identified certain trigger words, fire, explosion. So within a week, 14 of my listings got the same review. I bought this product, it caught on fire and exploded. So 14 products that had the best ratings and review averages within the category. No serious complaints. In 5 or 6 or 7 years of selling, within a week, 14 of my products got the same review, and they were shut down immediately as the review was placed. And I never recovered from that. I was appealing, and in a couple of months, I got one product back, then another. But as soon as I got one product back, they placed the same review on that ASIN again, and it got shut down again. And I had to start a process all over. So in 2022 or so, after fighting this for a year, I decided to just call it quits and try to do something else with my time instead. And that's how we got into Fluvi.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So you're very, very familiar with what we call at PPC, we call it Amazon BS, and that is like next level Amazon BS to deal with all those suppressions and then getting those review attacks, and that's super rough. But now you've started Fluvi, so tell everybody more about Fluvi, what you guys do, and the software.
Yeah, so because I worked selling on Amazon for 7, 8 or so years, that's my area of expertise. I wanted to keep doing something within that space. And I was approached by a friend of mine, Eric, also a Swedish guy. We lived together. By the way, I was a digital nomad during my Amazon years. So I moved to the Philippines where I already knew a couple of people doing e-commerce, and I met a whole bunch of people that are still very successfully selling on Amazon, high-level sellers. And one of the guys I met, Eric, also a Swedish guy, just like me, he, after a couple of years, back in 2022, showed me this little software that he had been starting to develop. He's an, as he calls himself, an amateur software developer, self-taught amateur software developer. So he had built this little app, this little software for his own private use for his Amazon business, keep track of inventory and profits. So he showed it to me, and then we showed it to a couple of friends, and we all thought it had potential. So then we spent about 3 years commercializing this little app. So we took it from basically nothing. It was very, very basic into what Fluvi is now today, which is, in my opinion, a fairly extensive analytics software that keeps track of your sales, expenses, profit, inventory, ad spend, and also has a couple of cool features like an AI emailing tool, which integrates with Sales Central, inventory planning tool, and so on. But yeah, that's what I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years, together with Eric and our team. And yeah, we are pretty proud of what we have built today. And I hope that some people will check it out, as I do think it offers plenty of utility to its users.
That's awesome. So cool. I mean, 3 years is wild, like I think so we built our own software that we use to manage the advertising for our clients, and that took us about 2 years. And so I kind of know the pain, but 3 years is a long time. So like you've really perfected it. You've really got, it sounds like a lot of really cool features. I really love the profitability that you focus on. That's something that we care a lot about, and I think that's a great feature that we see a lot of clients come through, and it's kind of like they don't know their margins, they don't know their profits. And so seeing that, and Amazon has what, like 90 something different fees that they can charge you, and so I think that's a super cool feature of Fluvi.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to keep track of everything manually when it comes to Amazon fees, and just downloading those spreadsheets from the fulfillment page is such a pain. Like, you fill in your ASIN, you have to enter a date range, you have to click generate report, wait for it to be created, download it, sort it, filter it. It's just a hassle. So softwares are really meant to save you time. So we fetch all these reports in the background while you sleep, and then you always have fresh data at your fingertips. Yeah, 3 years is a long time. When I used to sell on Amazon, I figured a product launch which usually took like 3, 4, 5 months to finding the product, or rather researching the product, developing the product, manufacturing the product, shipping the product. I thought that was a long time, but software is a whole different league. But it's fun and exciting. It's always good to try new things and learn and grow.
100%. Okay. Awesome. So we've got a few questions coming through now. So first one here, what strategies do you recommend to avoid going out of stock during your product's peak seasons? So I like that this person put the S at the end of that, because, we always think about Q4, we think about Prime Day, but some products are back to school products, some products are Halloween products, some products have multiple, seasonal periods throughout the year. So yeah, I'd be really interested to know how you kind of approach that, and then I'll share how we do it. But what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So again, utilizing Amazon's FBA logistics services is your number one step. Keep plenty of inventory at FBA. Amazon usually puts in limits. I see now that you can pay to have them increased, at least for certain sellers. But having inventory nearby, so not in China, not across the world, but nearby, ideally in more than one location. So maybe you would have a 3-party logistics company that you use on the West Coast and East Coast. So you have an external warehouse where you can have inventory that covers you at least a month. So if you do get a spike in sales on Amazon that is unexpected, or due to holidays, or maybe you're running a deal that goes better than expected, then you'll be able to quickly fulfill from that third-party logistics company. And frankly, also, if there's ever any issue with FBA, you can do fulfillment by merchant if your 3PL allows that. So I think I see that as an insurance, having stock nearby at a separate warehouse. It will incur fees, storage fees, and you have to keep an eye on it from time to time, and so on. But I see it as an insurance, especially if you deal with products manufactured in faraway places, and especially if you can't ship them by air. Shipping by sea, takes anything from 25 to 45 days. The ship can get stuck at the port. There can be an inspection with the container. So it's always a gamble when it comes to sea shipping. So you never really know if it's going to take 4 weeks to refill or restock, or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. But having inventory nearby that you can send with even Amazon's own services, pretty much in a couple of days from the West Coast to any location in the US, that's always something that I try to do, and I saw that as an insurance, both from running out of stock, but also in case something breaks with the listing, I can do again FBM fulfillment. So again, that's my main insurance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so we recommend that as well. I mean, even for smaller sellers, like keep some in your garage that you can do FBM if you have to. Like if you don't have the money to do a third party warehouse, or you're just starting out, I mean, keep some in your garage. Like that's also a little mini insurance policy. And then from the advertising perspective, actually what we'll do, so we do single ASIN campaigns, but we will include any SKU associated with that ASIN. So including FBA and FBM SKUs, we'll put those in the campaigns to make sure that like your ads will still be running. You'll still have that visibility, even if you do end up having to switch to FBM if you run out of stock at FBA, right? And then I guess a follow-up question for you then, is there any kind of special formula in your forecasting that you do to plan seasonality? I mean, for a product where there's historical data, I mean, maybe that's a little bit easier, but without historical data, how do you kind of approach that for seasonality?
Yes. So if you've been selling for a while and you know your product, in Fluvi we have an inventory planning tool, which actually looks at both seasonality and trend. Perhaps I can share my screen and show this to really get the point across. Let's see. There we go. So I'm just going to quickly load up Fluvi here. Again, this is an analytics platform. We have about 20 or so different features, but we're going to focus on the inventory planner feature here. And I'm just going to load one of these products. Let's get this in here. Actually, let's try this one instead. Right. So this is a supplement, and it sells pretty. Sorry about this. That's the one I want to show. Let's remove this one. Right. So this sells pretty steadily across the years. No peaks, no dips. But what we're doing to forecast your future 12-month demand. So here, the top line here, we see the 12 months ahead from now, and at the bottom here we see our last 12 months, so historical 12 months back in time. And if we click on the modifier, we have an additional 6 months. So what we do to forecast demand, assuming it's a mature product and you have at least 18 months of sales data, is that we first look at the same month last year. So if you want to forecast September's demand, September 2025, we would look at September 2024 and use this number 322 as our base. This is the number of units that were sold that month. So this would take the seasonality factor into account. So if you're selling a lot in December, but not so much in June, this way we again take the seasonality factor into account. And the next part is to then take trend into account. So are we selling more this year than last year? And what we do here is that when looking at September, then we would also look at the previous 6 months, so August, July, June, May, April, and then we will compare these 6 months to the same 6 months 1 year ago. And here we see the modifier tells you if you have a positive trend or negative trend. If the value is above 1, so it's 1.43 now, this represents that you have increased your sales by 43% compared to the 6 months 1 year ago. And now that we know our positive trend, we simply take the number of units sold 1 year prior, and then we multiply that with the trend. So 322 multiplied by 1.43 gives us the expected number of units that we expect to sell in September. And then we do this exercise for every single month ahead. And if you know that, for instance, you had a particularly good month in September, maybe you ran a campaign where you sold an extra 50 units that you don't want to include in the current calculation, you can always reduce this. So you just enter -50, the graph will adjust automatically, you need to recalculate, and then everything will adjust according to your input. And this works the opposite way as well. So let's say that you're also selling on Shopify. Maybe you want to add 100 units that you expected to sell on Shopify. You add this to the calculation, and everything recalculates for you. And you can also change the modifier. So if you expect it to sell more or less than what we calculate, you can always just configure this, add a number, recalculate, and then everything adjusts accordingly. So I was doing this manually in spreadsheets before Fluvi. I was just inputting my sales, trying to work out the trend, lots of calculations, lots of numbers back and forth, lots of copy pasting, and also having to fetch every single data point for every new month. That was really tiresome. But again, we simply apply the same way of thinking, looking at both seasonality and trend. And with that, we get a pretty accurate forecast out in time. And then we'll also show the cumulative number of units that you need for the months ahead. So I think that with this tool, you can really work out how many units you need on a fairly accurate level. And again, if you think that the numbers that the tool spits out are inaccurate, you can always adjust with your own numbers or your own estimates at the bottom. And I think this is a very good approach. So whether you're using Fluvi or not, look at both seasonality and look at trend. And then also, again, if you're planning or running any kind of deal or also selling your products on different marketplaces, Walmart, eBay, maybe fulfilling from your Amazon inventory, don't forget to look at those numbers as well.
Makes sense.
I'll hop back to you,
And
Carly.
we do have a sort of follow-up question here. So for new product launches, what's the best way to forecast demand when you don't have that much historical data, right? So if sure, it's great if you know what you sold last year, but if you don't have and if you have zero data, how should you go about thinking about what to stock for a new product launch?
So this comes down a little bit to how aggressive you want to be, especially with your marketing. So if you're launching a new product, it's fairly difficult to get it off the ground, to get the wheel spinning. What higher level sellers do is usually that they lower the price and they pump ads to get the sales velocity, the momentum going. And this will depend on your budget, how much you can actually pump. But I would try to look at my competitors. How many units are they selling per day, week, or month? And then I would try to, I would perhaps guesstimate at what level will I land on. Like, will I, if I do my promotion, will I be on rank 10 or rank 5 or rank 3 or rank 1? And then you look at the products within that ranking, and you try to work out how many units they sell a day. The easiest way to do this is really just to add the product to your basket, add a high number, and see if that number goes down day over day. So then you can actually measure how many units your competitors are selling. There are tools that will work out the number of units as well that your competitors are selling by looking at their sales rank. That's a little bit difficult if you're starting out and get an approximation just on your own. But there are tools that will tell you how many units certain listings are selling based on their sales rank, which is available for most product in most product detail pages. So again, try to work the data backwards. Look at your competitors, make an assumption where you will land when you do your promotions, and from there work out how many units you need to keep in stock while you're ordering new units. And also, again, don't forget to take seasonality into account. I have an example here where a friend of mine tried to start an Amazon product, and they were selling some kind of drinking game kit or something like that. And they launched, I think, in September, October. Sales were very, very slow. Like they sold maybe a few units every day. But then in December, their sales 5x or something without doing any special promotions. And they quickly sold out of units. I think they sold out their units before Christmas. And then they were all hyped up, like, oh, things are really looking good for us now. But then, and so they placed a massive order with the manufacturer. And then in January, their sales just dropped from a cliff. They went from selling like 20, 30 units a day in December to barely a handful in January.
Wow.
So again, looking at seasonality, I can't stress enough. Look at seasonality, understand if the products you're launching is in fact seasonal. Um, will it perform much better in December than in January, and make sure to account for that. But yeah, again, we went a little bit off topic, but again, look at your competitors, look at how much they are selling. There are tools to work out the numbers, and then look at how long your lead time is. How long does it take you to manufacture the product, ship the product, and make sure that you don't run out of stock while doing this launch. I guess that's the most important part. Um, Running out of stock can really be a killer for a new listing, and frankly, also for a mature listing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I think that's really smart to look at what your competitors are doing and what, where they're ranked and where you expect to be ranked, and then kind of using that as the guideline as far as how to think about it. Because, I mean, unless you have your own products that you're selling in a similar category and you're launching something in a similar, like a variation of something, it's really hard to predict what can happen with your stock. And yeah, it's never perfect, right? You're never going to get it 100% perfect. And I mean, that's why even you were showing in your forecasting, like sometimes you need to manually make adjustments for all kinds of different reasons. But yeah, so I always go with like more than a little bit more than you think, a little bit more than you think you're going to need, and you're probably going to be safe. Because yeah, going out of stock is kind of your worst nightmare, especially if you do. I mean, like in your example there, where they started selling really really well and then had some momentum going, right? If they had run out of stock like in the middle of the holiday season, that would have been kind of a death sentence, So that's super good advice. Okay, another question here on the topic of out of stock. So, should I raise prices or reduce ad spend if I'm at risk of stocking out? Daniel and I were talking a little bit about this before we went live. And yeah, I have some thoughts as far as the advertising side. But Daniel, I'd be curious to know what you think, just kind of in general, about stocking out and I guess, rank and all of the effects there.
Yeah. So running out of stock is can really be a listing killer. It's very difficult to recover quickly from running out of stock. So to avoid that, I do think it's important to raise prices, lower ad spend, perhaps pause your campaigns, work out like look at this from a timeline or as a timeline. If you have 100 units left and you were selling 20 units a day before getting this low, make assumptions. So if we raise price by 20%, lower ad spend by 50, will this stock last me, I know, another 10 days? And then try to work from there. Like, how many days do I need in order to refill this product? But frankly, even this can be a little bit tricky. I know a friend of mine, they actually raised prices and they just kept selling more and more, even
Oh
though they
no.
kept increasing the price. I guess that's like a luxury problem to have, where you're making more money when you're trying to save yourself. But I just want what I'm trying to say is that raising prices doesn't automatically or necessarily mean that you will be selling less. Sometimes the higher price is people see that as some kind of social proof that this is a quality product, and that can actually be a USP for you. So don't rely on selling less just because you raise prices, but that's definitely something you should do when running low on stock. And again, also in my opinion, reducing ad spend to again avoid running out of stock or having as few out of stock days as possible.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's pretty interesting data too. If you do raise prices and you're able to still sell, then maybe you should continue to keep that higher price, because that's going to have a nice cushion on your margins. So, in terms of ad spend or what to do with advertising if you are at risk of stocking out, so actually, the way that our software is set up is that it will automatically detect if you're below a certain number of days of cover. And if you are, then it's going to either pull spend back or pause ads completely. And I know that might sound like kind of a radical thing to do, but going out of stock is one of the worst things that can happen to your rank. Obviously, Amazon cares a lot about making sure that their customers get fast delivery, right? And so if you are not making that happen for Amazon in any way. If you are hindering the delivery or slowing down their delivery times, they're going to throttle you. You're going to lose rank, and going out of stock is like it can be really hard to regain your rank after that. So you're kind of choosing between two bad options, right? Your option one, you're going to lose rank either way, right? Option one, lose rank from reducing, your ads, or lose rank from going out of stock. So you need to kind of pick your poison. And usually almost always we will pick, let's just reduce ad spend or stop ads completely, and or raise prices to see if we can kind of slow things down a little bit so that we can thread the needle and not go completely out of stock, because it really is a rank killer.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very healthy approach. And I know some ads companies, they don't like to reduce ad spend
Yeah.
because that's their bread and butter. But again, that's really a win for a client. Like again, the fewer days are out of stock, the better your listing will fare, the quicker you'll be able to recover. Yeah. So again, try to do your best to not run out of stock. Keep inventory close at hand. Like you said, in your garage, if you live in US and selling US. If you live in another country, if you don't have a garage in US where you can store products, a 3PL
Yeah,
would be your second choice.
for sure. Okay. So, well, I want to talk a little bit more about, oh, here's another one. Okay. How far in advance should sellers prepare for events like Prime Days or for like Black Friday or holiday season? Like, I know, for example, I've been advising clients, hey, let's get inventory in as soon as possible, make sure we're getting orders placed, because I'm pretty sure at least last year the cutoff was October 15th that Amazon announced, hey, if you don't have your stock at FBA by the 15th, we can't guarantee it's going to be available for Black Friday, right? So how far in advance, or like what should that look like?
Yeah. So I would say that there's no one size fits all answer. It will depend on your lead time. It will depend where you source your products from. But I think the lead time is the key here. If you know that it takes you 30 days to manufacture, 45 days to ship, and another is maybe 7 days for Amazon to receive the products and unpack the products, that's the number of days you have to work with. That's the process. Look at your lead time, your full lead time, manufacturing, shipping, handling, and then calculate backwards. And always add margin, an extra week, an extra 2 weeks, because there's things that can come up that you can't control. Again, your ship gets stuck at port, there's an inspection, things that are really out of your hands. And again, this also, again, I keep going back to 3PL, but having stock at your 3PL close at hand, shipping from there in these types of emergencies, if your main stock doesn't arrive in time, that can really save a season or an entire month worth of sales. So again, look at your lead time. Usually plan ahead with your manufacturer. Even so, I know some sellers even plan a year ahead. So in January or February, they talk with the manufacturer. They tell them, I'm expecting to sell pretty constant over the month of the year, but I know that in October or December or during summer, whatever season is your main season, there my sales will probably 2x or 3x. So make sure to have your raw material, your packing material ready. This is what my order schedule will look like, most certainly. The manufacturers usually don't need exact numbers. They just, but giving them estimates can go a long way. Again, they also buy the material when needed. They don't usually keep a lot of raw material in their inventories. So just telling them that this is what I'm looking to order, and then you'll always make modifications to the schedule as you go along and as you learn more about your product and you see a trend. But again, having a dialogue with your manufacturer, making sure that they can manufacture and fulfill, send those products when you need them, and then add at least 1 or 2 weeks in margin in delivery time, especially if you're shipping from China.
Yeah. So very far in advance, up to a year in advance potentially, right? Because that's really smart. And I think not everybody thinks about it. They think they're just kind of like placing it on, like it's like you're placing an order for something, right? But the manufacturer also needs to stock their own raw materials, and maybe they have, someone else is making part of your product or whatever, right? So there's a lot of people involved in really understanding the full supply chain for your product. I think is going to be, and maybe having relationships, alternative relationships in place in case your main manufacturer can't fulfill for some reason, is also probably a smart move, especially when you start getting into larger order quantities. I think that's going to be the move for sure.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying that you should place an order a year in advance. I'm just saying that talk to your
Right.
manufacturer and like try to create like a schedule, a plan. So in general, I'll order 1,000 units. In March, I'll order another 1,000 units. In June, I'll order 3,000 units, something like that. So they know ahead of time roughly when you'll be ordering and how many units.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, you don't want, because you don't want to get stuck with a huge surplus either. So but having the conversation and making sure you're on the same page in advance. Absolutely. Okay, another question from Jess here is, if inventory does run out, okay, you did everything you could, but unfortunately you're just hot and it sells out. Are there any tactics to speed up recovery of rank? Are there any ways that you recommend to get that rank back up after you go out of stock?
Yeah, so I look at this a little bit as a product launch. So when you launch a product, you want to get the momentum going as quickly as possible. So again, high-level sellers, they usually overspend on ads as a strategy. And I think that's how you should look at this as well. When you run out of stock, your main goal is to show Amazon that you have when you have your stock ready, that your product is still attractive to consumers, and you do that by trying to regain your sales velocity, the number of units you sell every day. And I think the easiest, most straightforward thing to do is to increase ad spend. So keep pumping those ads until you see that your sales velocity, the number of units you sell every day, is back to the same level as it was before you ran out of stock. And if you lost any results in your search ranking, see if you regain those rankings as well. I haven't been selling for a couple of years, but I recall that when I did put in an extra effort to bring my to again get that sales velocity back, I quickly recovered my dropped sales ranks. But this will also be very product dependent. So if you're selling in a very tough niche, a very tough category where your competitors are doing things very well, they have good number of reviews, good review averages, good images, all of this, it's fairly easy to lose your place more or less permanently to your competitors if you don't keep an eye on your inventory.
Yep. I like that, treating it like a launch, kind of like it's essentially a relaunch, right? And yeah, I think, the reason you're pushing ad spend, right? If you kind of think about it from first principles in terms of what Amazon is doing, or what you're sort of showing Amazon is basically, hey, I can get these sales again, right? This is a good product. People do like it. People do buy it. That conversion rate's going up. And then that is what is going to increase your rank, right? It's not just like you can pay to rank, right? It's, you're the product is still high quality. Now you're fulfilling it, you're back in stock and you are getting those sales. So, hey, Amazon, keep displaying my product because people like it, right? Like that's what that ad spend is buying you. It's not just like you were just dumping money into it and that's what's getting you the rank. No, it's because, you're able to show Amazon that you're converting into people like the product. So, yeah, I think it's an important, I want to mention it's important distinction, right? Because I think a lot of people kind of it's almost a myth, right? That you can just pay to rank, and that's just not exactly how it works. But yeah, treating it like a relaunch is a smart way to put it.
Yeah, the product has to be solid too. If you're selling garbage, like even if you push ads, it's just not going to sell. But you also have to understand that there are almost always plenty of competitors for every single product being sold on Amazon. So if your listing, goes out of stock and just, vanishes from the face of the earth for a couple of years, somebody will take that spot and they will not want to give it back.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're say you're ranked number one in your category for your product, you run out of stock, your listing disappears, somebody else will be number one, and perhaps they will push ads even harder than before just to show Amazon that, hey, I'm number one, my sales are increasing, momentum is increasing, I'm selling more units every day. That way they have a higher chance of keeping that spot even when you get your inventory back. So this is a game of wolves. Like everybody's out to get everybody, and everybody will try to outcompete everybody. It's a very competitive game selling on Amazon, and you have to assume that if you're not on top of your game, somebody else will be on top of theirs. And again, everybody's trying to win, and it's tough out there. So you have to look at everything at all time, and try. And if you make a mistake, try to rectify that mistake as quickly as you can. Again, for instance, with ad spend or just marketing in general, trying to bring that traffic in, trying to get those sales.
Yeah. And I know that you have some data that you want to share about, okay, well, what is really the impact of going out of stock on rank, and how long does it take to recover? Can you always recover? What if you're out of stock? I mean, I've had clients that have been out of stock for months, and then as soon as they're back in stock, it ranks right back up. And I'm like, this is amazing, this is great. But that is not always the case, right? I mean, sometimes they're out of stock for a week and like it's months before we can recover the rank, So but I'm super curious to see some more of the data that you have on that topic.
Yes, I do have a couple of charts here in Fluvi that I'm hoping to show. I think you can see me now. I can see myself, but I assume that you see this little chart with
We
the
see it, yeah.
orange bars and green. Excellent. So we're now looking at a supplement product. This is actually my co-founder Eric's product. And the yellow bars here represents his available on-hand FBA inventory. It's basically the units that he has available to be sold. So we see up here he has 1,919 units here in week 8 of 2025. And then we see this is probably when he restocked, right? So he was running low on stock. Here came one shipment, then he sold a little bit. Here came another shipment, another shipment. So here was kind of like maxed out in terms of stock. And then he kept selling. Eventually, he ran out of stock. He didn't restock in time. And the green line here shows the bestseller rank. So the higher the bestseller rank, the sales rank, the fewer units you sell every day. So the lower bestseller rank you have, the more units you sell. So you want a low bestseller rank. Now, here we see that the green line in this period is quite constant. So it doesn't fluctuate too much up or down. Here his bestseller rank was 97,000, and it went down to 71. And here for a couple of weeks, it was pretty constant at in the mid 80,000s, 85, 88,000, 86. But then he ran out of stock, right? So his bestseller rank shoots up because he's selling fewer units. He has no units available, which we see here. We see that he has 59 units available here, but that's not enough to satisfy all the warehouses across America. So maybe he had some stock on the West Coast, but not on the East Coast. So if somebody would search for his product on the East Coast and there was no inventory nearby, it would probably say on the listing that it takes another 2-3 days to get this product delivered. And that's a conversion killer in itself. But then eventually he did sell out of stock. The couple of units that are in stock are probably returns or canceled orders. So effectively he was out of stock, even though it says 12 units here. But the point is that as soon as you start running out of stock, your bestseller rank goes up. And even when he did get stock back here in week 20, his bestseller rank was 124,393. And then even next week, it was in the hundreds, 107,000 here next week, 92,000 next week, 89. And over here, we're down in the mid 80s, 83,000, right? You see that number over here. I'm not sure if it's clear enough for you guys, but anyway, it took probably 4 weeks after he got inventory back in stock for him to recover his bestseller rank and essentially his sales velocity. So not only did he lose 100% of his sales here that he would otherwise make, but over the next 4 weeks, when he did get inventory back in stock, he probably lost 30 to 50% of his sales during this period as well, until he eventually regained his sales rank, and then again started selling pretty constantly over the coming weeks ahead. So again, this is a very visual way to really see, all right, what are the consequences of me running out of stock? Again, people understand that when they are out of stock, they can't make any sales during that period, but they often overlook the fact that even when they get back in stock, it still takes a while to regain that bestseller rank, that sales rank, if they do. So again, this was one product example. I do have one more that I'd like to show, which has a little bit different journey.
I'm
So I'll
curious.
just take
Wait,
it.
how long was he actually out of stock there?
Yeah. So each bar here represents a week. So I would say that here he was effectively out of stock. This would be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
We can break this down over days as well. It's going to take a moment to load, but here we see it a little bit more clearly. So around here, I would say that it's effectively out of stock, 6th of April. And then over here, this is where he would be back in stock, 19th of May. So about a month and a half, right? So what is it, from 7th of April, 6th of April until here, 19th of May.
Yeah, but but you're saying, hey, so he's out of stock for 5 weeks, but it's actually the impact on sales is another 5 to 6 or 7 weeks after the actual being out of stock, right? So I think you're
Exactly.
right. A lot of people don't think about how much of an impact it has and how long it can potentially take to recover. I would actually say 4-ish weeks to recover rank is not too bad. I mean, I think that is, out of some of the cases that I've seen, that's okay. But people just really aren't thinking about the long term, I guess, the longer term effects of being out of stock. So it's super interesting.
For sure. So we can also look at units. So here we got back in stock. Here we're still selling below average,
Yep.
still below average. And then somewhere here, I would say is back at his usual level. And frankly, can also overlay his ad spend. So I don't think Eric was pushing extra when it comes to ads. So he would have a little bit higher ad spend here than in the previous period. But then when he got units back in stock, his ad spend was still pretty constant, around the same level as before. So perhaps if you were at increased ad spends, again, the yellow line here was ad spend, we see that he spends around $300 per week. So perhaps if he had increased his ad spend by 50% up to here, just to make this visual, then perhaps he would have regained that sales rank quicker. So that's one way to go about this. And again, that's something you guys do very well, of course, optimize ads. So that's something I would definitely recommend. Again, trying to show Amazon that you're back at the top of your game. You're making sales. You want to get those sales. You're increasing your sales velocity. But again, Eric is a fairly hands-off guy when it comes to his Amazon business. So he didn't focus too much on increasing his ad spend here, and that's something that would probably have helped him.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see, I wish we could have like an A/B test, right? Like Eric's account with the same ad spend and then Eric's account with, double the ad spend after being out of stock or something like that. Would be really interesting to see the effect of ad spend on rank or regaining rank after being out of stock. But yeah, really cool.
For sure. And I'll just show one more example to show that not all cases are the same. So over here we have a different product, and this is actually a product family. So there are 4 child variations here. One variation, this seller stopped selling completely, but I want to focus on the first 3 variations here. So one of the variations never ran out of stock, right? So here was pretty close, but never really critical. It's like 138 units, and then he received more stock, and then even more stock over here. So this variation was always in stock during this entire period. This is year to date, so January until August. But then he had 2 variations that did run out of stock. You guys see this, right? So here we ran out of stock effectively, and also over here. And the BSR will be the same for all of these variations, as the BSR is connected to the parent. So the stock levels will be different across these variations, but the BSR, the green line, will be the same, right? I'm hopping between these 2 variations now, and the green line is essentially the same, and then the stock levels vary. So again, what we see here is that here we did run out of stock for this variation and also for this variation, and an even longer period for this one actually. And then for this variation, we were in stock all the time. But then we also ran out of stock over here in this period for two of the main variations, these two.
Mm.
And what we see here is, again, before running out of stock, this was the Christmas season, January, first weeks of January. And this is quite a seasonal product. So I would say that these BSR levels in the 1000 range is probably not, shouldn't be assumed to be the same for the entire year. So it's probably logical that it goes up a little bit here, the BSR 2000, 3000. But still, he did run out of stock. BSR shoots up, and even when he gets back in stock, for at least this variation, the BSR is still very high, and he's making fewer sales than he should have. Then eventually he gets back in stock completely, but his BSR never really recovers, right? So here, over here, week 10, he has inventory of this
Yep.
variation, of this variation, of this variation, and even of this variation. But his BSR never really recovers. It doesn't really go down again. Frankly, it goes up, right?
Yep.
And this could be a little bit due to seasonality, but I
Mm-hmm.
suspect that it has a lot of do that he did in fact run out of stock. And there are of course
Right.
other factors, like maybe dropped his review rating by half a star, or maybe he got more competition in this niche within this period. So there could definitely be other factors too. But again, running out of stock is consistent with struggling with getting that BSR back. And if we're looking at this period over here, so for this variation, he ran out of stock for I think 3-4 weeks roughly. For the other variation, roughly the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, call it 5 weeks. This variation always had stock, and this variation he stopped selling. But I think this was also the slowest selling one. But point being, he was out of stock of all except one variation. BSR just shoots up to 21K, and then it never really recovers back to
Mm.
the 3000 range, right? So here it did shoot up a little bit, went down again, shot up, but then he never recovered. This BSR 8000 is much, much, much higher than over here. So I'm guessing we a deeper dive would tell us, but I'm guessing that he's probably selling half of the units over here that he was doing over here. So again, this is also a consequence of running out of stock, and then struggling to get that BSR and sales velocity going again.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've seen this happen before as well in individual ASINs, and I think it's kind of what you were saying earlier, or my hunch is that it's like other people just kind of jump into that rank and then they don't let go, and then you're not able to kind of outpace your competitors, and Amazon just keeps you at that lower rank. That's now your new sort of deserved rank. That's really tough. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting about the data that you're sharing is that the BSR shot up even when they were low in stock, right? Not even when they completely ran out of stock, but even when they were just getting low in stock, the BSR started to shoot up. And again, I think that's probably because of what you're describing, like your product isn't available across the country. And so depending on where people, geographically are searching from, if Amazon can't fulfill it or can't fulfill it in a timely manner, you're going to get throttled. Your rank is going to go down, or up rather. So yeah, that's super interesting data. And yeah, like we were talking before we started the show, is kind of like getting but it seems like you're going to have access soon, to a bunch of data on that, and like a full case study on kind of across different niches and different products and different, time frames of how long you've been out of stock, to sort of see that impact on rank. I think will be really valuable to people, and hopefully eye-opening as well, and in terms of how important inventory management and inventory planning really is. I mean, it's something I drive home to my clients. It's not something that we manage, but it obviously affects us because we can't sell your products if you don't have them in stock. We can't run ads on it if there's no inventory. So I hope it's eye-opening for people, and I hope that it does have an impact.
Exactly, especially for agencies like PPC Farm. If you have KPIs revolving around revenue or profitability or ultimately profits, if you don't have products in stock, like how are you going to achieve those revenue goals? Agencies typically don't handle purchasing and logistics. Again, placing orders with manufacturer, making sure that they arrive in time. Agencies typically focus on just getting the sales in, optimizing the product detail page, optimizing that. But if they don't have inventory to work with, the KPIs will never be met, and it's not the agency's fault. I was talking to another agency the other day, and the guy there was saying that he did so well that he doubled the sales of this particular
Right.
ASIN, and the company owner didn't calculate with that. They never made that assumption that it would go so well. So he doubled their sales, and they ran out of stock, and they couldn't meet their sales goals for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden, that was this agency guy's fault. All of a sudden, when in fact he was doing a stellar job. I mean, much better than expected. Um, so again, having showing this for agencies to their clients, showing that how BSR affects revenue and eventually sales rank and the recovery period from going out of stock. You have to really keep that in mind and take that into account when doing your future forecast and your planning. And always make sure that, again, if you're running agency, that your clients are aware of this, that they know the consequences, and that ultimately that it's their fault if they can't have enough stock for you to work with.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the case study because there's definitely some folks where I think that they don't quite understand the real impact of that and the real consequences of running out of stock. And I've definitely, been in a situation where it's like, well, how come, like, I don't get it. Like, we're running ads. How come we're not ranking back up or whatever? And I keep saying, well, it's because you were out of stock for months, and they're like, well, but we're in stock now. So what's the problem? And it's like, well, unfortunately, Amazon, you've now kind of got blacklisted almost, from Amazon for going out of stock. They really, really need you to be in stock so they can make the, good on their promise to have fast delivery to their customers. So, yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, Amazon cares about the end consumer. They don't care much or if at all about the sellers.
Yeah.
So they're happy to punish a listing if they see that its stock levels are not up to Amazon standard, or also if you keep going out of stock repeatedly. So if you have stock 1 week but not the next week, then stock in the next week but not the fourth week, that will also give you a penalty in terms of search rank and the ability to advance in rankings. So again, you really have to look at the big picture when it comes to your inventory levels and inventory management, and not just, well, I do have stock today, so let's go sell this. It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I wish they would just tell us, how they were coming up with the ranking and sort of like the quality score. But unfortunately, we just have to guess and use the data that we have available to us to make the best guess, the most educated guess. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through right now. So I think we can probably go ahead and wrap it up. We're nearing the end of the hour anyway. But Daniel, is there anything else that you want to touch on or let people know?
I'll just say this. So again, I think Fluvi provides plenty of utility for its users. We have 20 or 25 different features ranging from tracking your sales data, ads data, cost, profit, but also a bunch of different inventory features or visualize your inventory levels for you so you know which products that you need to pay attention to not run out of stock. We also have this inventory planning feature. We have an AI emailing tool that with one click will reply to your customer support emails in Sales Central. So a bunch of different cool features to try. And I'd invite your audience to give Fluvi a try. We have a 14-day free trial. If you email me at daniel@fluvi.com, I'd be happy to give you another 30 days. And for any listeners of this PPC Farm podcast, I'd be happy to give 2 months for free as well after they sign up, and an additional 20% off for their next 2 years. So plenty of incentives to give Fluvi a try, I think. You can always reach me if you have any questions or would like a live demo, daniel@fluvi.com, or shoot an email to our support from our website, fluvi.com.
Okay, amazing. That's a super good offer. You guys should go check it out. I mean, that 2 month free trial is huge. So again, that was Daniel@fluvi.com, right? So that's
Correct.
awesome. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. I think people will be really excited about it. And I think it's a great tool. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of the data that you have and your insights on inventory and all of that. It was awesome.
Yeah, I hope your audience got a little bit of a education or perhaps a little bit more insight. I know you guys mostly talk about PPC on this show, so mixing it up with a little bit of inventory know-how is could be a good idea, I think. So again,
Yeah,
I
no,
hope I
I mean, it's all connected. It's all connected. That's what I always say is, you can't run advertising in a bubble. You can't run it in a vacuum, right? It all is connected. I mean, as we've seen here today, right? So yeah, I really appreciate the perspective.
excellent. So as again, happy to address your audience. Hopefully they learned a thing or two, or at least they were entertained a little bit. So I hope they had a good hour here with the two of us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you guys. Take care, Carly. Bye bye.
Thank you.